the price of natural gas also skyrocketed. Why? Because Russia is the third largest supplier of natural gas in the world.
Well, certainly climate change will make entire ecosystems die off. It'll make parts of the world, impossible to live in. And so the actual economic and death toll from climate change will be much, much, much greater than what we have with this pandemic. It's delayed in time, so the current effects aren't as severe.
Why is it we're so dependent on Russian gas? And the simple answer is because we have lots of renewables. What do you get when you have lots of renewables? You get lots of power when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, but you have none when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing. And then you need backup power. In past times, we would get this from coal. Now, coal emits a lot of CO2, so a lot of the continent has simply gone rid of coal-fired power plants. That's overall a good thing, partly because they pollute a lot. They actually kill people through pollutants, but also because they emit a lot of CO2, which obviously is also bad. And so we've gone to gas, but we have not delivered our own gas. So Europe has lots and lots of shale gas, potential shale gas, just like the US. But we have not used it. We have, to a large extent, been incredibly worried about shale gas. Oh, shale gas is probably going to, create a lot of earthquakes, or it's going to pollute the drinking water. All those kinds of stories that you also heard in the U.S. And again, remember, it's not that it was entirely untrue. There are some problems with fracking in the U.S., but fundamentally, fracking has made the U.S. both much more energy independent, and it has actually reduced dramatically the emissions of the U.S. The U.S. has reduced its emissions more than any other country in the world over the last 10 years. Europe did not do that because we had cheap Russian gas. And now we're in this pickle. So fundamentally, it's because we don't like coal, we love renewables, and then we need lots of gas. And there we are right now. And of course, that is going to make us very, very vulnerable to pressure from Putin. Everybody has been pointing that out before.
Well, let's dig into that a bit. First of all, it was completely obvious that unidimensional dependence on the Russians for vital energy sources was a bad strategic idea. And that's even the case, I would say, in some sense, if Russia was a clear ally and we weren't in a war with them, because you don't want your entire economy so unresilient that you're dependent on a single source for your fundamental resource. And everyone who had any sense whatsoever could see that just as clearly as they could see the daylight sun. And then the second issue here, and I don't think people do understand this, is that every energy source has risks. So for example, if you put solar panels on your roof, you pose a risk to the workmen who install it because they fall off the roof. And you might think, well, that's trivial danger, but way more people are killed installing solar panels every year than are killed by nuclear power, for example. And so every energy source has its risks. And I grew up in northern Alberta, and people had fracked there for decades. No one was concerned about it in the least. And so then when everyone started to short out about the dangers of fracking, we all knew, people that I knew that that was just rubbish. But even more importantly, if you are concerned environmentally, and there are some reasons to be concerned environmentally, you would have to point to the fact that the Americans and their success with fracking drove their carbon emissions down 15%, I believe. And as you pointed out, they're the only industrialized country that has managed this. And so if you were really concerned about the environment and not just an idiot communist anti-capitalist, you would note that and you'd think, well, this is a lot better than the alternative, which is high energy prices, which are hard on the poor, hyper dependence on the Russians as single source energy, and then the fact that if you don't frack, you have to turn to alternate energy sources that are going to pollute or leave you vulnerable.